Hi guys, today we're going to continue our discussion on photo gear, and we're going to talk about light meters. And if you have an older light meter, things that you should keep in mind with light meters. This is a Gaussian light meter. This is a pretty simple device. Unfortunately, the battery is dead as a doorknob, but I'm going to talk about the battery specifically because this light meter was designed to use a mercury battery, which you can't buy anymore. So some companies came up with an alternative, such as Duracell, that came up to use a rechargeable or use a alkaline cell. And for some meters, the battery system is a 625A alternative. I guess the A means alternative in this case, replace the mercury ones. But the problem is the voltage of this one is 1.5 volts. And these meters are designed to run at 1.2. One solution I found, and I'm not the only one, is that hearing aid batteries produce 1.2 volts. So if you got hearing aids, zinc airs, like this one right here, you can see. I'm going to switch the camera closer to me so you can see this. I can see that you see it. Okay? So let me adjust this thing here. A little bit Big Clive style. This is a zinc air hearing aid battery. And this produces 1.2 volts, or 1.23. I think it's 1.23. Which happens to be very much the same voltage as was used by the original hearing aid battery. This is a 675. And so this battery, this is the original 625 battery. There used to be a mercury battery. And mercury has been phased out of battery manufacturing, which did a terrible job because this meter won't work well. I want to show you the difference of how this thing does readings on each one, and I'm kind of curious too. So, let's talk about the big disadvantage from these zinc air batteries. Number one, once you peel off the foil protective thing on the back, these things, after so long, because they're actually a fuel cell, will go bad, and they just basically, once the air gets in, it just does its job in fuel cells and makes it kind of worthless. So unfortunately you can buy these hearing aid batteries pretty cheap. So let me get this in here. I have a fiddly homemade adapter on this, and I am going to tell you a secret. Some companies make a Japanese shim that does the same job that this does, and probably holds it better than I do. So maybe I'll go ahead and get one. Alright, so here I'm going to explain this control here. You have a test switch, which is T. Show you this control here. This is off. And so this is the same basic design that's in the Pentax K1000. This is off. This is supposed to be light meter mode. And it is, you can see reading. And it says here, if I pointed at something, you see we get a reading about 10 units, or 9.5. And that's incident. This is the light that'd be falling on, like if I point this up at the, you can see that the reading is like 6. If I point it at that, as close as I can over to that spot, you can see it's about 6 to 8, about 9, okay? So, this is 9. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to show you how to use this. So, first thing you do is you got to use your thumb, and you got to go in and you got to turn into the exposure values. So, I'm going to set the ISO on this thing to, we did 200 yesterday on my camera, so I'm going to set it for the same. Okay, 200 ISO. And what it does is it's going to move the scale. On here, it doesn't affect the reading of the meter. So I'm going to try to get it. So you can see it's about 9-ish. So now I turn the dial to 9, and it tells me at a 250th of a second it says the user on F4. You can see that here. Okay, and that's if I'm pointing right there. So the point with this is that you can actually use this to take a reading. Now here's the question: how different is this with the NiCads? I mean, you can mention NiCads too, or with the hearing aid batteries versus standard batteries. So let's test that. Here you can see that this has a little rim or collar around it. It's really a 675 battery, or 625 with a rim. You can actually visualize how this goes into the meter. It goes into the cup. It's supposed to replace the original PK 625. Okay. And it goes in just like that. You can see how that goes in without a shim needed. So I'm going to put this in. Same thing. And you can see right away that thing is pegging the friggin' meter. Alright, so that's not good. But let's go back to actually work mode now. And so this connection's in a minute. Whoa, it's all over the place. Alright, look at this. It says it's 2 EVs higher. It's actually one whole EV unit higher. That means that if I was to use this thing, if I was to go ahead and set the dial to the setting that it's showing, which is about 10.5, about there, okay? And I want to take a look at this thing. It would see I have a reading at 250 of a second at F8. Now that's 2 stops less. That means that thing would be totally inaccurate. This meter would be totally butt kiss, and it would do me absolutely no good at all. So, the only time it would do me any good is if I was to hold it straight at that. I'd have to subtract 2 EVs, because, now you might say, yeah, but this doesn't sing have a 0 adjust screw in the back. It does. Yes. Right here. And the problem is that this is designed to calibrate to the bottom out scale, not for the top scale. The point is that this kind of battery is okay for some camera work, but this thing with this battery is butt kiss. Alright, so now let's put our little zinc arrow back in, because that seems to be the best one for the meter. Why would you use a meter like this instead of one built into your camera? Well, for one thing, what if your camera meter is broken? Duh. That's one possible reason. Or maybe you might want to really measure a reading in the darkest place in the room. The flap makes it kind of easy to kind of get clumsy. So, actually I can point it right out here. This one here is not a spot meter. This is a CDS photocell. This is a very simple meter. There are spot meters. They're much more precise. You can actually dial them smack dab right on top of that spot again. Only time is the stupid case is annoying. So, if you have doubts of the reading, go back over again, do the same thing. Close to your subject. Okay, you can see, again, as I said, if you going down here, I am, that says way down here by the floor, it says 6. I'll go ahead. Now this is kind of related to the zone system. This is the darkest spot, so according to that, 6, as I said before, is 125 F2. If I want to take a reading of the lightest part of the thing, which would be the railing, and it says the EV is 11, so I would turn this to 11, and it says that it is 1/25th of a second of 11, which is shadows, right? If I want to take pictures of the brightest, if I want to include this scene into the room, it would be at the same here, pointing straight out. It's a little higher. It's about almost like 11 and a quarter. And it says here, it's going to be about 2/50th or 1/25th of a second of 16. The whole point is everything is done based on averaging. So, photographers will sometimes use a gray card with exposure meters because the gray card allows them to calibrate smack dab on perfect. Now, for example, would this case be seen as a grayscale on a monochrome camera? I would say no, not really, because it's not quite. The case itself is almost, actually the meter itself is grayscale. A 65% gray card color. So this, which is ironic because I don't know how in the hell you're going to ever get the meter itself. That's just a gray card. So turn this off, and that's how it works. Not really that fancy. But you get the idea, and it's this thing. Make sure not. These impromptu shoots are perfect for people who want to get started. So the question that keeps coming up is, would this 625A battery be usable for anybody in the meter testing? Yeah, these could be useful, but there's only one thing. They are not. There is ways you could actually put a small resistor in line with the battery and place it inside the meter. But the question is how do you do that? I don't know, because as I said, there are cups that these batteries can sit into, which has a little tiny photoresist or a tiny little resistor voltage divider in them to help make the meter run. But obviously, if you're going to use the meter as it is with one of these 625A batteries, you're going to have to really seriously be on your toes, because the fact is that the calibration is going to be completely off, and you're going to have to keep that in mind. Another thing too with the alkaline batteries is that the batteries will actually start to lose voltage fairly quickly. It has a pretty, near the end of its life, the alkaline cell has a pretty sharp curve that can cause it to go down. So what about something like a 625A nickel metal hydride or NiCad? Well, that has an advantage if you happen to find a 625 type NiCad, because the fact of the matter is, in that case, as long as you have the appropriate charger, it produces 1.2 volts, 1.23 volts, which would be much closer to what the meter needs, and it will actually probably work just fine. And because these were the meters that were, no, this is not one of the Wesson ones, this is not one of the really fancy ones. But this meter here, this Gosson, is actually a pretty good meter, and it's my backup meter. Just like I said, if my camera breaks, or if I need to want to take a reading from a different position closer to my subject, this is the meter to use. This meter works also with my 16 millimeter projector camera as well. What that means is same thing. There's settings on here for film. So over here you can see the sign settings. It can tell me, for example, if it was the same setting at 11, if I'm shooting at 24 frames per second, it says here to set the shutter of my shutter speed of my camera to 24 frames per second. If I want to set the frame for 24 frames per second, I'm going to set this. Then I can set the f-stop to 16, to properly expose film of ISO 200. So this is a pretty simple device, and it works. You get the idea of what I'm trying to show you. I know it's not much of a demo, but it just shows you the meter, and it just show you that if you're using an old vintage meter and you got to figure a way to get the battery that's going to work for it, but they do make ones in the proper form factor, such as for the 625 replacements like the P25, 625As. But the problem is the voltages are high. Hearing aid batteries work the best. They're using 675s. These work the best because they're the closest voltage to the other one. And in fact, they're actually damn perfectly close to mercury oxide batteries. So you could definitely use them, but be aware that, of course, when you peel off the little sticky tape on the back of the lithium cell or the zinc air cell, it's immediately going to start doing its job. And in that case, it'll do its job until the materials in the zinc air battery are depleted, and it means it's not like a regular chemical battery. It's not going to just stop depleting just because there's no charge. It's actually a fuel cell. It's just it's using solid zinc to air to cause the reaction, which generates electricity. So it's going to go bad even if it's just sitting around doing nothing. So zinc air batteries, it makes sense to put them to work right away, or you're going to be throwing away batteries a lot. And that's what I would say in mine. Also, you can always be sure that your battery's good is get this thing in test mode. And as long as your meter is in this area right here, which in this test meter is 11, as long as it's within that square box, you're fine. But if you are not really sure, you can always go ahead and just get new batteries. They're not that expensive. I think these 625s are like $10 for a pack of 4. This should last. Let's just figure you're going to probably go through a pack of batteries. Say if you're using meter a lot, you're going to go through a pack of them, say within a month's time. Now, that's something to keep in mind for the future. I know this is one of those unedited videos. Yeah, it's pretty good though. It's pretty good. So just make sure if you find an old meter like this and you wonder if you're going to be able to get mercury batteries, you can't buy mercury batteries anymore, but you can use them as long as the voltage is the same. Okay? Now this Gossen, I don't know how much it cost when it was brand new, but I got a feeling this is pretty much an entry level meter, so it's still a pretty good meter. Right? Actually, this is my backup. So it does make a difference to know how to use it. Oh yeah, by the way, like I said, if you're actually going to be taking pictures of somebody, let's say for example, get this thing to turn on, because of the way the switch is, and this thing is a leaf switch. If I put it at the sky, it's gonna give me a really strange reading. Okay, but make sure you understand. Now I can take a reading on me. I can see I'm on 6. Okay, which makes sense, right? Because I'm in a really big shadow. So great if you want to get close to your subject. You use the dome, by the way, when you're doing incident light readings. In this case, I can see the light of the coming in from the sky, and it says here that based on that reading, the overall light falling on the scene is about 6.5. I would start with 6.5, and it'll tell me that I should definitely set my shutter for about, if I want to keep it reasonable, f2. The point is with these meters is it's a great start. It's a good backup plan to have, regardless of what kind of camera you got, because sometimes cameras break. Even with your cell phone, this is useful because some cell phones and your DSLR, this is going to give you the same ability for multiple metering, where you can set your f-stops and stuff even on your DSLR. Many cell phone apps will actually allow you to do the same equivalent. so you can get things dialed in more precisely. So it's a very everyday functional tool, and this Gossin is not that expensive. I got this thing back on eBay about 2005, and it's been a good meter for when I use it, which is hardly ever, but at least I have it in my quiver of tools. So it's always good to have an extra quiver of tools. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.